First of all, give us a sense of just how big you are in Mexico.
In terms of the company, we're probably the largest individual developer in the retail asset class, in the hospitality asset class, and then because we're in so many things from industrial, manufacturing, condominiums, et cetera, we're probably top 2, top 3 developer in the country today.
So why are you there?
Opportunity, and I would call it both opportunity, growth, and alternative. When you think of the world and how things are changing, Mexico is becoming quite the answer to some of the United States' economic problems, and by being that solution, it's been wonderful for them. As a country, I would say it's 4 things that really make up their economy, their drive. One is their local specialty assets, I call it. It's avocados, it's tequila, and it's beer. We know it as, going out and having that drink of beer and having the dip and the tequila, et cetera, but it really is a product that's been growing. I mean, if you think of tequila, 30 years ago, did you really go to a bar and hear a friend order a tequila? Not really. And so Mexican culture has gone global, it's gone viral. Sort of what happened to sushi 40 or 50 years ago happened in Mexico. And then the second thing is remittances. A lot of Mexicans and Americans, because of the close relationship between our countries, really transverse back and forth. And then probably the thing that's been the buzzword for the last 30 or 60 days is nearshoring. We, as a country, we see the world sort of bifurcating, multipolar conflict. Mexico's a great solution. It's right here in our backyard. It's easy. Labor is actually cheaper than labor is in China. The people are hardworking, they're industrious. The commuting point, the logistics for a container ship is free relative to shipping it from China. And so it's really become the Chinese alternative.
How does that translate into investing in real estate in Mexico? Are we talking about commercial real estate? Are we talking industrial? Are we talking about residential? All of the above? Where are you putting your money?
We were heavily in retail. We believed in it as an emerging market country. And so when we started in the country, we started off on a little street in a neighborhood called Polanco in Mexico City, Mazarik. Started building 6 different projects, commuting back and forth from New York, and then we sort of exploded. We wanted to deliver for them the same quality of life, lifestyle centers we saw in the United States. I had a friend, Rick Caruso, who was almost mayor in LA, probably would have been great for LA, took me for a tour of a project he did actually in Los Angeles. And I was fascinated by seeing how many Mexicans were in there and enjoying it. Mexican nationalities that were either tourists or local working. And that's when it dawned on me, why can't I bring what Rick Caruso did in the United States and California and bring that to all of Mexico? And then it just grew from there. It sort of snowballed. We started saying, it's a great place to visit, but I don't really love the hotels that I'd stay in. And so we started then building the hotels. And then nowadays, it's taking advantage of the nearshoring. It's multidimensional. First, it's direct-to-consumer companies that maybe they bring in the merchandise from a foreign country or manufacture it in Mexico and then ship directly to Americans right from there. Or number 2, the auto industry. Auto industry has been growing and growing, and the demand in the United States has been tremendous. And then last but not least is, I would say, advanced manufacturing. Mexico sometimes is thought of as a little bit of a backwards manufacturing country, but they've gotten so much more sophisticated, shockingly so to some people, not to myself. But when you look at medical products, EV, battery, manufacturing, Mexico's right up there, just as good, if not better, than building in China.
So, Joe, you've described an investment opportunity, a big investment opportunity in Mexico. Typically, there's an opportunity, money rushes in, capital rushes in, and it becomes fully priced. Where are we in that cycle? How close are we to fully pricing the assets in Mexico so it's not quite the deal it was before?
Excellent question. And often people generalize by the country, but you've got to also look at the specifics, meaning by the asset classes. For example, nearshoring, you had 120 companies announce investments in Mexico so far the first half of this year, about $29 billion in US dollar investment, a 41% increase from last year. based upon the early research, it's looking like next year is going to double on that. So I would say from the industrial opportunity, I think we're in the very, very early innings of it, probably the earliest innings amongst the different food groups. In fact, one of the things I've often bumped into my challenges with investors, as well as sometimes, as we said, the media, is we're often at Thor sometimes a little bit too early. We don't try to be the first. As I often say, we try to be the fastest second, but it's not until you're the third or fourth or fifth that the investors get it. And same thing happened with us in investing in Dubai, as you and I had spoken about, 4 years ago. Same thing happened to us talking about red states versus the blue states and investing in red states 15 years ago. And we think this is another one of those golden opportunities where we're early. We're just in the beginning of the second inning with a lot of runway. And those investors that act quickly now to mine that opportunity will get that benefit. If they wait, call it 3 years or 4 years or 5 years, then it starts getting priced in. I would say retail is probably already priced in, and I would say condominiums, second home, tourism, while growing, is probably somewhere in the middle there. So I would say ahead of the curve is industrial, probably already valued well is retail, and as I often joke, forgive the expression to my team, I say, ride the horses, feed the lions, and shoot the dogs. I would call the office market there probably the dog, and I would say the industrial market is probably the lion.
Joe, you're clearly bullish on Mexico as an investment opportunity. Compare it with some alternatives. We had Steve Schwartzman just this week say he thought when it came to real estate, Europe was a great opportunity right now. How do you compare Mexico with Europe with some Asian alternatives?
Well, Steve is a friend. I'm a fan of him and John Gray, both super smart guys. We often compare notes and look at ourselves as a miniature version thematic investor that then develops specialties in different areas. So I don't doubt what he's saying. We've got an office in most of the major metropolitan cities inside of Europe, very active market for us. But I would say a lot of the early low-hanging fruit in Europe has been mined, but where the opportunity in Europe is much more because of the dislocation, because of financial markets.
So, Joe, what about geopolitics, and particularly politics when it comes to Mexico? That's often been an issue for investors. We have an election coming up. Where does that stand today?
When AMLO was going through his election cycle, it scared the bejeebies out of the local players and candidly myself. AMLO then came in and he sounded good. He was a good hearer of what people were saying, but wasn't a good listener, I'm sorry to say. And so I really think that Mexico did well in spite of itself. Now, the politics is much better. Either way, we're getting a woman for the first time as the president of Mexico. It'll either be Claudia Sheinbaum or it'll be Xochitl Galvez. Both of them pro-business, listeners, touching their communities and really caring about their constituents at all levels and not just considering rhetoric to be the answer. They're thoughtful about the jobs, et cetera. So I would say that's probably my overall number one most exciting thing today that I'm excited about the future of Mexico for the business community.